All right, cool deal. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Man, we'll get this thing kicked off. I'm Keith Scott. I'm the host for tonight's space. I quickly jump into my recruiting journey in college football and the places I've been. First off, I was a defensive graduate assistant at Prairie View A&M University, Prairie View, Texas, for 2 years. Left Prairie View A&M and went to Mississippi Valley State, where I got my full first-time job as a defensive back coach. And then the third year I was there, I promoted to defensive coordinator. Left Mississippi Valley State, where I went to Central Arkansas for my first stint. I was at Central Arkansas for 1 year as a corners coach. Left there and went to Division II Arkansas Monticello, where I was there for 5 years as the associate head coach, defensive coordinator, and DB's coach. Left there and went to Eastern Illinois, where I served as a linebacker coach for 1 year, and then the DB safeties coach for the next two. Left Eastern Illinois and went to Austin Peay, where I was there for 2 years. 2019, we was OVC conference champs. Left there and came back home to my home state of Arkansas, where I'm at now, and I'm the special teams coordinator and also the DB's coach here at Central Arkansas. Um, the next phase of this thing, man, I want to talk to you guys about my why for this space and also what's my purpose for this space. So what I do is I quickly get into how this space came about. I was a guy that posted one tweet a day since 2016. And I was just out there looking for opportunities to motivate other people, also opportunities to let recruits kind of get a feel on my coaching style, let them get a feel on who I am as a person, also my parents, my high school coaches. So that's how my space came about. A friend of mine about 3 weeks ago sent me a screenshot of a tweet that I sent out probably 5 years ago. It got 2 likes. And I say to recruits, the reason why stories, I say to recruits, the recruiting process is consistency. If you can stay consistent every day doing something to promote yourself in terms of the recruiting process, it will pay off. So my whole thing with this space, 3 weeks ago, I hit a 40K following, and at that point, God was like, I got to do more. So this platform came about, and I just want opportunities for coaches, not just me. These coaches that's on this panel, their opportunity to connect with you guys and to tell their story, to motivate somebody that's out there that may be lost. Because I was an adolescent in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where I didn't have as much guidance as some of you guys may have, and I was looking for that. And my reasoning for this Twitter space is to motivate that young man that's like me out there. So the next thing is my purpose is to inspire, educate, and motivate recruits, parents, and high school coaches. That's the whole purpose, man, for this whole deal. And, man, I'm excited to introduce this panel that we have. But before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about the rules. Let's respect the rules of tonight's space. No high school coach, no recruit can be promoted on this thing. No high school coach or recruit can talk. Okay, and if we can respect that, we can continue to do these things here more often. So what I do next is go to our co-host. And we'll introduce our panel, let them tell you about their journey and the places they've been. But remember, let's keep in mind those rules that I talked about. So our co-host, Coach Cree Trammell.
Hey, I hope everybody out there can hear me today. We look forward to being a resource to others. A little bit about my journey. I started out in 2019 as the corners graduate assistant at Arkansas Tech University, Division II school in Russellville, Arkansas. I stayed there for about a year and a half before taking my first full-time defensive backs job at Southern Arkansas University in 2021. I was there about 3 months before I got the opportunity to come here, where I currently serve at Central Arkansas. At Central Arkansas, I started off as the assistant DB's coach, And after a year of working hard, doing what I got to do, I became the corners coach and blessed for the opportunity.
Next, we'll go into it, and he haven't traveled things. I don't think Coach Locke is on here yet. He's having travel difficulties, so we'll go right into Coach Shay Hodge.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right, where we want to start? My journey came from Morton High School. Went on to Ole Miss 2010. From 2006 2010, bounced around from 2010 2016. Finally got into coaching. Was a wide receiver coach at my high school, Morton High School, 2014 to 2018. 2016 2018. My bad. Then became the offensive coordinator 2018 2019. Then became the head coach at a private school called Hillcrest Christian 2019-2020. And then I went on from that space to go to got into training athletes, and I've been stuck there. Well, I ain't gonna say stuck there. I've been blessed there for the past 2-3 years now, and just loving what I do.
Appreciate it, Shay. Next, we'll have Coach Gunnar Borkin, Central Arkansas.
How's it going, Gunnar Boykin? My kind of progression through this thing, I'll brief, is, started out, I'm a Mississippi guy, grew up in Mississippi, started out in high school, Mississippi football, spent a few years there at a couple different high schools, and then kind of made the jump to Central Arkansas to coach under a guy that I played for in college.
Hello?
Gunnar, unmute your mic.
Unmute, Gunnar.
Hello.
We got you now.
Repeat that.
Did you hear?
Right when you got into high school.
Yeah, I coached in Mississippi high school for years, and then always kind of wanted to try my hand at college coaching, so I came to Central Arkansas in 2015 under a guy I played for in college as a player, and things have worked out for me so far. I've been here since 2015, going on my 8th season, and had a couple promotions, and now I'm the offensive coach and recruiting coordinator here.
Next, we'll have Coach Cody Moore.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. My journey, guys, I'm from Stratford, Texas, out in West Texas. I got my start at Timmons University as a defensive line graduate assistant. Spent 2 seasons there back in 05 and 06. Then left there, went to Auburn for 2 years. Was there 07 and 08 as a quality control D-line coach. After that stunt there, I went on to Texas A&M. I was there for a little over a year in 2009 as a quality control, working with D-line. Then I got my first coaching at Central Arkansas back in 2010 and spent 3 seasons there as the interior D-line coach, recruiting coordinator. After our 3rd season there, I had an opportunity to go up to Fayetteville at Arkansas as an assistant recruiting coordinator. Spent about a year there. Got an opportunity to get back into coaching back at Abilene Christian University as they're making a jump up to the FCS level. Coached defensive line there for 3 seasons. 2017 and 18, I was at Georgia Tech as an associate director of player personnel. Then had the opportunity in 2018, the spring, to go out to Arizona as a director of recruiting and high school relations there with Coach Sumlin. Spent 2 seasons there. Spent this past season up at Army as a coordinator up there. And then now I'm currently at Louisiana Tech University.
Next, we'll have Coach Dean. Coach Dean. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, next we'll have Coach Dean. All right, Brandon Howard, you can go ahead and go.
Perfect. Well, Coach, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me on. I'll just make my story brief. So originally from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Was lucky enough to play for the Euless Trinity Trojans. Win a state championship my junior year and be a part of that team. Really my why for what I do. So I'm media contributor for 247 Sports currently. Is that I was a track guy who contributed to the football team whenever I was in high school, and always kind of had a knack for understanding the process. And so I was able to help out a couple of my guys while I was in high school, transitioned to college at Stephen F. Austin State University, and worked in recruiting with the basketball team there during the most productive years in school history. At the same time, was recruitment chair for a fraternity. At the same time, led a flag football team that traveled the country. So recruiting was essentially in my blood. But the aspect of actually evaluating talent was something that I always enjoyed, from watching high school football games at 6 years old, to watching a player's story and being able to build a relationship with a guy, which is the most important. And so, whenever I got out of college, had some different opportunities, but, was able to contribute to the old coach who really gave me my opportunity. And then once I, had a couple coaching relationships that came into fruition, it made sense to kind of switch over into a 247 role. So currently I contribute to multiple sites. And then in some degrees, I'm the on the ground scout for, people who wish to inquire about what I do. So thanks again, Coach, for the opportunity, and look forward to this space.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Next, we'll go back to Coach Dean and let him share his journey.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We got you, brother.
Yes, sir. I'm Dean. I'm from Lancaster, Texas, right there south of Dallas. I started off playing the junior college ball out at Tyler, Texas, at TJC, transferred over to East Central University, where I started being a graduate assistant for 2 years, coached the corners my first year, receivers the second year. Then I went to Cisco College, where I was there for a total of 6 years, 3 as a defensive coordinator, and then 3 as the head coach. I left there and then went to Blaine College with Coach Ryan Mahon as the offensive coordinator. And then I left there to come here to Washington Baptist, now just finished up 4 years. It's been a blessed journey, kind of got into this thing because I'm here to serve and it's my calling. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Next, we have Keith Stevens.
Everybody's doing well tonight. I'm Keith Stevens. I'm the director of scouting at Arkansas State. And then part of my journey, so I'm a younger guy. I was a a student manager and a student assistant back home in California at the University of Southern California. I did that for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was a high school coach for a year. I was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at a little high school where I went called Elisa Niguel High School. From USC, I went on to be a graduate assistant at Missouri Valley College. There I worked with the D-line. I was the head of equipment and got to go on the recruiting there as well, which as a young guy was a beyond rare experience. From there, I met up with Austin P. We were there together for about a year and a half, and then June of 21, I made my way to Liberty, where I was a recruiting graduate assistant there. I was there for just under a year, and I made my way here to Arkansas State back at the beginning of March. And Coach Scott, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be in the space.
Go Key. Good job, dude. Hey, next we'll have Ryan Roberts.
Hey, fellas, appreciate everyone for having me on here. Coach Scott, appreciate you. Just my very brief story is I want to get to a little bit of the context of the conversation here. So I played my high school ball here in New Jersey, where I still currently reside. I went to Frostburg State University to play out there briefly, and then as soon as my playing career in college was done, I went on into the high school coaching side of things, but then also into the media side, which is what I currently do. And most of my roots actually come from the NFL draft sphere. I've worked at NFL Draft Vibe. I was a director of scouting a few years ago. I now run my own draft site. I'm a scout also for the College Gridiron Showcase, which is an all-star showcase out of Fort Worth, Texas. And now I am the director of recruiting for Irish Breakdown on Sports Illustrated. So, my why for this is I was honored to be asked because recruiting world right now, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about, some ways that we can, give some context to how you get recruited, how you can put yourself ahead of the game a little bit. But more than anything, the recruiting world this year, especially with everything that's going on from transfer portal to NIL deals and everything in between, I think it's something that we need to really be aware of, and I am here to, answer any questions that anybody has and assist in the best way I can. And I appreciate you again, Coach Scott, for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Appreciate it, Ryan. Good stuff, man. Hey, we'll move right into recruiting motivation. Quite often, I get in my direct messages, man, Coach, this recruiting thing is difficult. It's hard. It's misleading. I can have interest this one moment, and then that's like nobody would talk to me. And what I want to do is I want to bring a guy to talk to you guys about his recruiting process, his yeses and his nos, and his interaction with coaches, and just to motivate you guys through this process. That it is tough, and you can be high one moment and you can be at the very bottom the next. So I bring up Coach Shay Hodge to talk about recruiting motivation.
All right, Coach. Thank you for having me on. So a little bit of my recruiting, how it went. I think it all started from basketball. I was always a basketball athlete growing up. And early on, like in 10th grade, I remember playing at a junior college, and a lot of junior coaches were there, recruiting. Even the football coaches, they come watch basketball. And I think that's where the buzz came for me. I was always locally dominant, pretty dominant kid ever since I was young. So I dominated in basketball, and I think they kind of knew that I was an athlete that could play football. So, I went on to my junior year, and I started to dominate. I played quarterback and receiver, quarterback mostly, but put up about 2,500 yards and like 25 touchdowns, something like that. And then from the basketball, I feel like that's when the interest started. People started to contact me, start hearing, getting letters and things of that nature. And then after my junior year, we made a highlight tape. One of the guys on our a part of our film crew made a highlight tape, which was kind of unknown. Deuce McAllister is from Morton, little old Morton, Mississippi, man. It was hard to make it out of there, and I always wondered, like, what would make me different, what would make me stand out. And one thing Deuce always told me, man, he was like, just dominate the competition. Anybody that steps in front of you, dominate them. That's how you dictate where you can go and what you can do. And so I just always took that with me. So, I started to get the buzz, start hearing from coaches what some getting letters and things. And so I started to go to camp. I got invited to camps. I got invited to Nike camp. I got invited to Ole Miss camp, Mississippi State camp. And there was a few other ones that I didn't get to attend, but I got enough buzz around my name at those camps to the point where I started to get scholarship offers out. Actually, it was after my spring game, my junior year, actually, where I started getting my offers. And then I went to camp and solidified everything in front of the people that mattered. And I ended up with, 10 basketball scholarships, and then I had 8 football scholarships. And ultimately, it came down between Tennessee and basketball, Ole Miss in football, Southern Miss in football, and Alabama. And ultimately, I chose Ole Miss, and the rest was history. Went on to go there and had a great career. Broke a lot of records, and pretty proud of what I did there.
Appreciate that, Shay. And one thing you can take from his story is that, to me, is that he took his opportunities. He noticed that he had opportunities to go to camps, and he took them. And you guys that's listening, y'all got to filter through who's seriously into me and take those opportunities, because you never know what happened with them. So next, we'll jump right into our topics that we have for today. And speakers, just be listening for the 2-minute warning, so you'll know there's 2 minutes left in this segment of what we're going to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about is academic advisement. And the reason why we start with academics, because as college recruiters, that's the first thing we're going to ask. And guys, I want you to keep in mind, there's always been a no pass, no play rule. If you cannot pass class, you cannot play. And I want to talk to you real quick about just staying on track with your core class. And if I'm a ninth grader listening in, man, plan with your high school counselor. Start working with your high school counselor now. Your high school counselor should know exactly who you are. And then if you're a 10th grader or you moving into your 10th grade year, register with the Eligibility Center. And these are some of the things you can handle on the academic side, on the back end. The next thing is, if you're going into your 11th year, do not have to retake anything. Do not have to retake anything. Stay on the B track, stay on the A track. Try not to get a C, and you'll be good. Next thing is the 12th grade, okay? That's the year that counts the most. And this is when you should be on track to meet the 16 core, because if you don't meet the 16 core, you don't have a shot. And the next thing is, guys, and it's sad, but it's true, is if you could be as good of a player as you want, okay? If you don't get your academics, you will not get recruited. And sadly enough, your high school coach will play you, and he will use you. And when college recruiters come by, he will not mention your name. Stay on top of your grades. Stay on top of your grades. So next, we'll have Coach Cody Moore.
Thanks, Coach. Guys, just want to, piggyback on a few things that Coach Scott just talked about. He touched on the getting to know your counselor, your core courses, making sure you have the 16 core courses, making sure you're signed up with the Eligibility Center, and doing all those things, guys. But it's very important as you look through. There's a lot of athletes out there that can play. And in the academics, like Coach Scott mentioned, is very important for most places as we're looking for guys to join our football team. And we're doing the roster management piece. Because if there's guys that are pretty close athletically, if the guy's better academically, if they're close, then we're going to take the better athlete. But if they're pretty close, we're going to take the guy with a little bit better academics. Especially, if he can process and do things on the football field as well. But I think it's like Coach said, it's very important that you guys take care of your academics. A lot of guys, I'll give you a little bit of advice, is guys find out too late. But really, when you start some of you guys on there, I don't know who's all on the call, but freshman and sophomore year are so critical. You see so many guys have to try to bounce back, their junior and senior year to get eligible. So as soon as I don't know whoever's listening, but the younger guys on here, just make sure you guys are from your freshman year, you're taking core courses too. You're going to have to take some electives, but you're getting your Englishes in, and you're taking those classes seriously because it's hard. I've seen so many transcripts over the years come through with guys, having to struggle to go off, take at either a junior college course to get that extra math in, or to make sure that they did one of the Englishes or taking summer school, and it will hurt your recruitment. Trust me, I've seen it a lot of different places. A lot of different schools have different requirements. But if you take care of your core courses, you got the 4 English, your 3 years of math, you got your 2 years like your sciences, physical, sciences. You want additional your social studies, your histories, and then 4 additional courses that can count where that's an extra math, your government or whatnot, or make sure you guys take care of those, that your business in those and doing well. A lot of times, another tip that I want to share with you. You hear the cliche from your coaches, and you hear a lot more in college probably than you do in high school, guys. But if you go to class, especially in high school, trust me, if you go to class, participate, and care, then you're going to have a chance. Really, probably in high school and even in college, guys, just being through it and seeing it for so long now with my experience, guys. So just make sure you guys are really participating in class and ask for help. Don't be ashamed to ask for help now, as early as possible if you don't know, because it'll help you down the road.
Appreciate that, Coach Moore. Great job. Next, we're going to Coach Jamel.
So, guys, I'm going to talk about the same thing, but kind of hit it from a different angle just so you understand both viewpoints of it. So understand, when we go into schools or when we're talking to coach, we're evaluating players, we're going to look for 2 things. Obviously, the highlight tape, but also the transcript, as Coach Scott and Moore alluded to. So grades matter, and here's the reason why. So most Division I programs are going to offer a full athletic scholarship, yes. But the reality is a lot of kids aren't going to go Division I. I myself being one of those kids, I played Division II football at Arkansas Tech University. So what does that mean for guys like myself? That means you won't receive a full athletic scholarship. You receive a partial. With that being said, you want to make sure you have your grades right, because your grades and whatever you get on that test score is really going to determine the rest of your financial package, the rest of the way you're going to be able to cover up your bill for school. So you want to make sure you keep those grades high so you can keep that balance low. That's all I got for you, Coach.
Man, tremendous job. Really good insight right there, Coach Cree. Appreciate that. Next, we'll have Coach Dean.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. And just kind of to piggyback on what both of those guys are both saying, starting early, and then also, understanding that, when you get down to Division II, those scholarships are split up. And kind of taking it at another angle, piggybacking off of Coach Trammell, we're Division II private school here at Ouachita. So let alone the academics, that's a huge part of your scholarship. So for us, even if it's close or if it's even 2 or 3 notches off from a talent standpoint, the kid that's the better deal for that school financially is the higher academic kid. And then on top of that, when you're an academic school like we are, guys, some institutions are looked at as, are those guys staying for 4 years and are graduating? So staying on top of your academics, getting on top of it early, like Coach Scott said, and going through the process early. Take the ACT early. Keep retaking that thing. Getting those GPA early. If I have to take summer school, take your summer school, and doing whatever you can to get the highest GPA that you possibly can. Because the earlier, the better. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach Dean. Great job. You guys, great job, man. Really good details right there. Really good information. And that's what we're here for. We're here to inspire, motivate, and educate, and give out as much information and give back to as many people as we can. So moving into question number 2, topic number 2 is the evaluation process. And what we talk about with the evaluation process is what are coaches looking for? You know, more times than not, recruits are left confused. You know, well, I didn't get offered, so I must not be good enough. Or what are they looking for? So we're going to hit a number of different topics for a number of different positions. So I start out with defensive backs and what I look for. I look for speed. First off, I look for change of direction. Can he move side to side? Can he run with the receiver and get in phase? How smart is he? Can he process? Smart is key for me, because what if we got to make a 3-by-1 adjustment? We got to make an empty adjustment. Whatever the case may be, he got to be smart enough to get us in and out of certain things. Being coachable, that's huge for me. I'll come back to that here in a minute. Being tough. What I mean by being tough is being a willing tackler. I'm not saying that you got to kill the guy every single, just saying get him on the ground. So I talk about, you know, being a willing tackler. Eye control, meaning that he's not cutting people loose. There's not people running loose if he's a third corner or he's a middle close safety. He's where he's supposed to be. Next thing is how these are very, very critical to me. How does he finish plays, and how many effort clips does he have on his highlight? What I mean by effort clips, where I'm running down on kickoff and I'm just screaming down the field and I'm smoking a guy, or a guy break loose and I'm taking the home run angle to get him, to keep him in bounds and keep him from scoring. Like, how many effort plays can you put on your highlight? Yeah, you could put, a ton of big hits and interceptions. We want to see all that stuff, but effort, man, is not to be outmatched. So those are some of the things I look for in defensive backs. Next, we'll have some insight from Coach Cody Moore, which I think this would be good for you guys to hear his perspective on what he looks for in the evaluation process.
Thanks, Coach. Guys, I'll talk about a couple of things. I think there's a couple of areas of the evaluation phase, and I'll try not to take it too long here, but you know, obviously the one that comes to mind obviously is your athletic evaluation phase. That's what you're looking for positional traits. What kind of player is he? All those kind of things from an athletic standpoint. But then we also look for football character. And everybody's got kind of their bullet points they look for. I'll touch on some of those in a second. And then the third thing we hit on, I won't touch on too much of, is the academic phase. So there's really 3 parts to the evaluation phase for us, and what we look for, guys and guys, as we go through it. I'll touch on it just guys, just, and everybody, every school, every coach has got their own evaluation, what they're kind of looking for. But our top thing, just from what the guy has to have, to be, have a chance to play for us. We look for guys that love football. I think that's the number one thing a lot of folks look for is, and if the guys love the football, they're going to do the extra things they need to do to be successful. They're going to go to class. They're going to put in the work in the time you're in the office or in practice, and in outside of in the summer and all those kind of things as you're training, putting it in in school and out of school. You're doing it all year round, and you're going to do your work because you got to play. So those things are huge. Are you coachable? We look for that because we want to be the coach guys that want to coach, that want to be good, and that are going to take the coaching, because each coach that we have on our staff, they got an expertise. They're the specialist at their position. They know what they're looking for. A lot of them have played the position or been coaching it for a long time. So we want to get those guys. We look for work ethic, guys that are going to work hard. Football and intelligence, your football IQ. Can you process, pick up things? We look for, instincts, football instincts in certain positions. The other thing with the character, just are you taking care of yourself off the field? Are you involved in alcohol, drugs, Any type of things like that we're looking for, guys. That, if you post something on social media, all those kind of things, we're looking for. I'll jump back into the athletic side of things, guys. Like I said earlier, every position looks for different things, but I'll touch on a couple. I won't probably hit every position just because I know a lot of guys got to talk and speak here. But I'll just jump right into like quarterback. Some things that we look for at our, in quarterbacks. You're looking for a guy at that position that's a winner, a guy that leads his team. That you can tell that he's a not every quarterback's a vocal leader, but a guy that's a winner. You can just tell by being around him, not off the film all the time, but you got to go in and watch him practice and do things like that. But we're looking for winners there. A quarterback, obviously the decision making is critical at that position. The release, the accuracy are great. Obviously everybody likes quarterbacks with arm talent, but we really look for the guys that have the accuracy and the ability to make decisions at that position. Because sometimes not everybody's got the strongest arm. It helps. You always want that, but what is the minimum things that we're looking for? I think there's always this is the ideal guy, but what is the minimum that you would take at that position? A student of the game. I'll jump over to like receivers. We look for guys that give great effort, speed, and a lot of times off the ball. Like what's their we call it BGO, getting off the ball, even at receiver. How fast can they get off the ball? Route running ability. Are they a willing blocker? All those things count. A lot of times you see at that position, guys loafing. They're not really, if they're not getting the ball or thrown to them or whatever, they're not running their routes. And all that stuff matters. Your body language and all that stuff. Ball skills, how productive you are at that position. Now, we do an inside and outside receiver. So, our outside receiver, we like him to be a more 50-50 guy. Has great ball control. The slot receiver is more quick twitch. He's going to get to your yards after catch. He's got a lot
2 minutes.
I'll jump over to the defensive side, guys. From a defensive line standpoint, we're looking for guys that can get off the ball, that has suddenness, quick, tough, that can bend. Everybody looks for long guys, but I think it's not all about length. Sometimes it's arm length, guys, that we really look for. But most of our positions is, if the shorter you are, if you have longer arms too, that's going to help you, because these tackles in the leagues that we play in, they can get on you, especially at the DN spots. But we look for toughness, guys that are explosive, flexibility. That's something guys can work on their own, really, and continue to develop. Some guys are limited, but you can continue to develop there. First, and then be the pass rush. Some guys can pass rush, some guys can't. I'm talking inside and outside guys up front. At the DB position, Coach already touched on. I won't hit there. Linebacker wise, we're looking for guys that can run. With the spread offenses nowadays, you got to be able to run, change directions, be fluid. In your drops, and be able to, like I said earlier, change directions as you hop it into coverage, and then you as you see something, you can trigger that transition phase is smooth. Or how do you tackle? When you hit somebody, you make contact, or everybody's different at every position. I think coaches get, if you're a DB, sometimes no knock on that. If you're more of an ankle type tackler, or then with it more there than you do at certain positions like a linebacker or whatnot. But we look for strikers, guys that are productive, obviously guys that can play in space there, and your ability to blitz.
All right, Coach Borkin, we inside our 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll just y'all fit on most everything. I'll just talk to basically O-line stuff and make it specific. Maybe it won't take as long, but the things guys think about, of course, we look at like everybody else does: size, strength. How athletic is he? Is he able to bend? Does he play both sides of the ball? Can he play inside and out? How versatile is he on the line? But the number one predictor of, especially of an offensive lineman, of is he going to be successful long term, be the intangible stuff. Well, how do you measure that intangible stuff? Based on film, it's how does he finish? How much effort is he given? Does he look like he loves to play the game? And you can see that, when there's a guy that he has that it factor where he's going to go full speed. You can see it on film. Next, evaluating the intangibles is, what does this high school coach say about him? If this high school coach loves coaching him, I mean, that's, you'll probably like coaching him. And then game film's big for us, for O-linemen, especially like big games, end of games on the line. When the game's on the line, are they running to his side, or are they running to the other side, whatnot, stuff like that. But then camp is big for that position, because you can get him there and you can put him out there with other guys, and you can see, how does he respond to losing a rep in one-on-ones? How does he respond when he's tired? I mean, a lot of the stuff that you can't measure just off game film even, or a highlight, you can see there. And then one new aspect to it, from when I started 8 years ago, is the transfer portal. I mean, you see a lot of kids, and more you see kids leaving the high school they're at to go to another high school. And coaches are going to take that into account. Like if they're transferring in high school, what is the likelihood that guy's going to get to your school, and then 2 years in, he's got the transfer portal, he's going to leave. So that's I'll cut it off there.
Great job, Gunner. Great job, Cody. You guys killed it, man. Next, we'll have Keith Stevens.
Yeah, so just to keep it brief, I mean, some of the things that I look for, it's like when we're evaluating guys, it's going to come down to tape. It's going to come down to camp evaluation. It's going to come down to seeing you in person live. So when I'm watching tape, I mean, I'm looking for, one of the things that I was taught by my mentors is body type. A lot of things that you're going to be taught at the college level can be taught by that point, obviously. So we're looking for body type. We're looking for raw ability. We're looking for speed, quickness, length, explosion, and all those things you can see in certain measurables and seeing you in camp. Go into as many camps as you can go to, because like Gunner mentioned, if we see someone who's not going to camp but the tape looks pretty good, our first question is, well, why isn't he going to camp? Why does he want to compete against other guys that he's going to be going up against in 1, 2, 3 years? So those are some of the just kind of the main points that I look for. And then going back to true athleticism, I mean, speed. At the end of the day, fast people run by slow people, big people move small people. We're looking for raw traits. We're looking for speed. We're looking for size, strength, explosion. And then, like I talked about before, I mean, everything that you are going to put on tape is going to be seen by coaches when we go on the road and when we go to camps.
Wow, good information, man. Appreciate y'all sharing y'all insight. Next, we're going to get into, and this is probably something that a lot of athletes want to hear, high school coaches want to hear, parents want to hear, just a general idea of how the star rankings work. We're going to get our two guys on right now. We're going to jump out first with Ryan to just kind of talk his general idea with the star rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that every recruiting platform, depending on if you're talking about 247 or Rivals or ESPN, whatever it is, they have their criteria, obviously, for how they assign star rankings. I mean, a general understanding is usually a top 30 player would be a 5-star prospect. Usually a top 300 player would be a 4-star, and then so on and so forth, kind of down the ladder. The easiest way that people get stars, especially early on, is there's simple things, right? The one is that if you're from a school that traditionally puts out a lot of college talents, there's going to be eyes on you immediately. So if you're at a modern day out of California, St. John Bosco, DeMatha Catholic in Maryland, like the schools that generally all the Florida schools that you can kind of list off, like any of those pipelines, they're immediately going to get attention, right? So they're the ones that are going to get kind of an early buzz. And then what really kind of drives star rankings, honestly, is people see what the offer lists look like early on. And if a sophomore in high school has 15, 20 offers off the bat, generally, if they're big time offers, that guy's a big time player, right? So that's why you're going to get those early star rankings in that sense. And then that causes, and a lot of people ask, what about the smaller school guys that maybe don't play in the great pipelines, that play at a smaller league, a state doesn't get as much notoriety. And that's how you kind of get people that do fall through the cracks a lot. So the biggest thing from there to kind of, get your name on the map and do that type of stuff is one, you have to be active, right? I mean, you make sure that your social media page is fully understandable as far as like what your name is, what school you go to, put your contact information and email, all that good stuff. Make it easy to find yourself. And then from there, it's the camps, it's the all the combine testing. If you want to test that stuff out in the summer, the more eyes you get in front of, the more opportunities you get to be seen. And from there, if you impress, obviously in person, then that's why schools are going to go and take a look at the film and then sit down and then truly evaluate. So I think that for me, it's very simple to be as active as possible because people do fall through the cracks a ton. If you're not from a traditional power of a high school and you're not a guy that's getting a ton of offers early on, you're in a threat of, kind of falling through the cracks. So I would just say be as active as possible. And then showcase your talents as much as you can. Because, again, you have to give people – and this is similar to whether you're in the recruiting process or whether you're going through the NFL draft process. You want to get as many eyes as possible. That's why in the NFL draft world, you want to do the all-star circuit. You want to go to the combine. You want to go to the pro day. You want to have as many eyes as possible. So general sense, though, there's going to be eyes on certain people early on. The offer list is going to speak for the stars. And then from there, you have to really showcase your talent if you're from a small school. That's how kind of the star system is adopted. There's, simple criteria that people look for, and you have to just get as many eyes on you as possible.
Ryan, appreciate it, man. Really good detail, really good info there. We'll jump right into Brandon.
No, I agree with pretty much everything he said. Another aspect to look at is that it's comparable to the NFL draft. So the same measurables, the same time playing at a school, the type of contribution that you had for your program, and even your projection all play a factor. If you think about the NFL draft, the number of 5 stars that were taken in the first round, the number one overall pick happened to be a 5-star. So those things play a factor along with the aspects of how early do you play for the school? What role do you play whenever you play for that school? And then whenever you're at the camps, will they give you tremendous opportunity given whichever camp you choose to attend, but you want to choose the camp with the most talent and compete against the best talent with the most eyes, as he alluded to and he spoke to. Because if you're playing against players, you're competing against players who are high caliber, whether you have the quote unquote stars or not. If you make plays and people see them, everything else follows suit. So, from a star ranking perspective, those things, in my opinion, take care of themselves, because if you get the offer is the most important thing. The building a relationship with the coaching staff and being able to accept that offer are the most important things. But if you have the offers, everything else is going to line up. Now you may have a family tradition that plays a factor. As he mentioned, regionalization aspect that, how many quarterbacks in the NFL today came from Texas? Well, typically more schools are going to look for a quarterback from Texas, and those players are typically going to be rated higher as a quarterback from Texas because typically they project out well. And you have to think about what your area contributes from a ranking standpoint. Has there ever been an offensive lineman that has come from your state? Well, if you're going to be the first offensive lineman, you're going to have to be, a freak, for lack of better terms. And that would make sense because with the NFL draft and the combine, they look at those things. the same thing with the star and the ranking process. We blend those two, and then also have to evaluate that from that standpoint to make sure that when they show up on a college campus, they're able to perform. At the end of the day, there's 36 stars at best, and maybe 350 to best case scenario 375 4-stars. Well, there's thousands of kids. It's hard to narrow down anybody to the number one, no matter who it is. So we want to just make sure that we do at least a job where it paints a pretty picture rather than a chaotic picture. There's my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, appreciate that, Brandon, man. Great job. I think you guys covered y'all 2 questions all in one, man. I appreciate you guys hopping on and giving some really good detail, there. Man, as promised, I told you guys that running back coach from the University of Oregon will be on. He was traveling, had some traveling difficulties. He wanted to jump on real quick and kind of motivate you guys throughout the recruiting process and just kind of give you some inspiration on, the ups and the downs, the yeses and the nos. So, Coach Locke, can you please unmute yourself right there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm traveling. I'm actually here at the DFW now airport, but I wanted to.
You went out. Coach Locke.
Take the insignificant things that others not doing, you make it significant, and attack every day with a second mile attitude. Meaning that, where I'm at now at the University of Oregon, I never pictured myself. Memphis from 2008, 2016, and got the idea that I wanted to walk over to Memphis and start coaching. I did that for 2 years, sleeping in my car in the parking lot and going to my job at night, just showing up every day, being on time, and always carrying myself as a full-time coach no matter what was going on. And I was blessed with the opportunity in my 3rd year to be the director of high school relations. Then Mike Norvell left and went to Florida State, and he took me with him. I stayed at Florida State for a little while. Then last year I ended up at Western Kentucky, being part.
Did he get cut out?
Yeah, he got cut out.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll jump right back into the next phase of what we have, which is our off-season and performance training. And I would start us off, and I would talk a little bit just about putting in the work. If you're not putting in the work, don't expect offers. It's just that simple. And spend the time where it needs to be focused on. Okay? Meaning, if you keep hearing after you DM a coach or highlight, you keep hearing, hey, we questioning your speed. If you're not practicing the 40 at least 20 times a day, just get off, whatever the case may be. If you're not practicing the 40 over and over to get your speed right, if you keep hearing, man, it look like you're a little bit stiff. If you're not working on change of direction stuff and getting loose, you got to address the things that you're hearing from coaches. Be drill specific. I see so many guys on Twitter. They're training with the trainer. I'm not knocking the trainer. I'm not telling you where to spend your money in. But if you're training with a trainer and he's not pushing you to finish, I mean, veins in your neck, your eyes are bulging. That's how hard you're trying to get to the finish line. If you're not doing that when you're training, don't post it. It's not helping you. It's not helping you. So just stay the course in terms of. Now, the other thing is, at your high school, it is so important that you are there and you're present and you're working and you're on time and you're staying late. You best believe everybody at your high school is watching. So those are my 2 cents on off-season training and performance training. Next, I have Coach Hodge. Coach Hodge.
All right. Okay. For me, with off-season training, man, I focus mostly on wide receivers and running backs. I deal with defensive backs a little bit, but mostly just speed and agility for other positions. Especially with receiver, man, I just try to nail down the fundamentals because a lot of kids don't know how to do anything from a fundamental standpoint that I've noticed. They just get out there and they just run routes and being told things. No knock on the coaches. I just know from being a high school head coach and also being a coordinator, you don't have a lot of time in like teaching the specifics and the technician of the position. So that's where I come into play, man, with my off-season training. I focus mostly on movements, man, and the fundamentals. Especially like when you got a very talented kid, we can add fundamentals to him and add a little pizzazz to him. You know, I'm a basketball athlete, so I know how to dribble a ball really well, and that also helps me teach receivers how to get off the jam, how to space release, how to do it at the top of their routes, also using the same footwork that enhances their game, you know, just like Justin Jefferson. I also go and learn from a lot of the top wide receiver coaches in the nation. You know, like Mickey Joseph was one of the guys that helped me a lot. There's been other guys. I don't want to not mention any names, you know, that I may forget. But overall, just learning the techniques, everything, and being efficient in their movements, man, especially their receiver, getting in and out of their breaks, not taking too many steps, understanding different patterns that you're running. A curl steps are different from running an out or a dig. You know, learning how to two-step. You know, all the intangibles that it takes to play receiver is what I focus on the most. And the same thing with running back, you know, learning how to take small steps, move very quickly, start and stop, jump cut, learning moves. And also, just like Coach talked about, man, one of my biggest things is finish. Any receiver that catches the ball. In my training, man, we're trying to get north and south as fast as we can score. You got to finish. You got to give me a 5-yard burst after every move that you make. And also, with running back, same thing. You know, at practice, they're going to make them run all the way down to the end zone. So we try to make them do the same thing in my training. So overall, man, just working on their movements, learning on their change, working on their change of direction, their hips, working on getting quicker feet, learn how to be efficient in and out of breaks, learn how to get shoulders over toes to stop and start. You know, just all the small things that make a receiver good and a running back, and also just overall as an athlete.
Appreciate that, Shay. Really good job, man. Next, we're going to next will be Coach Dean.
Yes, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Sir. So what I'm going to kind of touch is kind of go a different direction, man. And all the training, all that stuff, man, it really leads up to this. I tell my guys since I started coaching, because it was something that, you know, my position coach hit on. You know, whatever you're doing, man, your whole objective is whenever your camp starts, if that's, let's speak more D2 in high school, for you guys are getting ready to go, July, August, you know, you want to show up in shape. So whatever you're doing through all those processes, you're hitting the cones, you're with your trainer, you're doing your 707 circuit. I think all of that stuff is positive because you're keeping football on your brain. But the biggest thing for me is kind of showing up in shape. Understanding, you know, trying to build that flexibility, stretching out most of the time, doing drill specific things. But as you're doing those things, you're hitting those things, and like both of those guys says, finishing through the process. Because whatever you're doing, I feel if you're showing up, if you're doing all those things, you're going to do them to the max. And you want to start things with the end in mind. And if your end in mind is to be in the top tier shape I've ever been in, I'm going into this season the best I can be. I feel you'll attack those drills and you'll finish through the line. You'll take the extra step. You'll show up early when the workout starts at 6:30. You're there at 6:15. You know, you're leaving at 9:30 when the workout when it ends at 9:30, because you want to show up in the top tier shape. So start with an end in mind, and your focus is be in shape. Be in the best shape I can be. That means you're stretching harder. You're going through the line tougher. That's my 2 cents on that.
Man, really appreciate that, Coach Dean. Really good details, man. We're running close, so we're gonna jump into our last segment of tonight, and we're gonna talk about how do a recruit become recruited. I mean, how do a recruit become recommended to college coaches by the head coach, position coach? And I'll start us off with that, and then everyone's gonna pretty much chime in on this. I'll be brief. The first thing I say is, because this is a trend that's happening in college recruiting, is some people think that their 707 coach take the place of the head coach. No. We're going to go to the high school and talk to the high school head coach. 707, must due respect to your 707 coach, he doesn't replace your high school coach. Your high school coach is the first person a college recruiter wants to talk to because he knows you best. You can say, well, my high school head coach is not helping me through the recruiting process. That doesn't matter. We're still going to talk to that high school head coach. We can't skip him in this process, and we won't skip him in the process, okay? And the next thing is, guys, let's understand that 707 does not replace Friday nights in your high school. It doesn't happen like that. You got to put it on tape under the lights on Fridays. Next, you got to stay consistent at what you're doing. Showing up early, leaving late. Showing up early. You can't stay late after you had a big game. It can't be a change just because you're successful. You got to do it even when you didn't have the best game. Doing a little bitty things, man. Coach Hodge was talking about at the top of the route. Make sure you take it 2 steps. Make sure them shoulders over knees, man. All that, man, just the small details you got to make sure you dominate. And that's just some things that I wanted to make mention in terms of I've seen a lot of. I get a lot of DMs about it. Just, man, the number one thing is you don't take anything else from what I said about this last segment is your high school coach will be involved in your process. Include him. Make sure he knows exactly what's going on in the recruiting process. Next. Coach Moore?
Coach, I'll jump in a little bit, and not to piggyback on too much we talked about earlier, but one thing that Coach, I mean, he hit it on a nail. We are going to contact your head coach. You know, even if you were there a year, we'll reach out to your head coach that was your freshman, sophomore year too, because there are some coaching changes. But we're gonna visit with the head coach, regardless if you do have a trainer or coach. We're going to reach out to a lot of people, but the head coach is important in his opinion. Not that it's everything, but we have a list that our coaches go out in the high schools and they ask questions, and there's several. I won't hit them all, but do you love of football, and that touches on how long has he been playing football. Does he do what's required of him, or does he do more? Is he a football junkie? Does he want to get better? And then we go into toughness. How tough is he? Describe the toughness. Does he play through injuries? Does he, if he gets hurt, does he get treatment on it? Is he competitive? How is he? What does his teammates think about him? All those questions, and then learning is a big one for us when we ask your high school coaches. Is he a visual or physical learner? Can he see it, or does he got to go out and do it? Because everybody's different when they learn. How well does he process? Does he put in the extra work in the film room to learn? Because there's guys that learn differently, but how much is he putting into it? The extra work. Does he retain stuff? All those kind of things. Does he communicate well with people? Football's a game of communication out on the field, and in pressure environments, can you communicate? Everybody's different, but those are 3 areas with a lot of questions that we'll ask our head football coaches when we're recruiting a kid. to we'll check boxes and we come back and all that's put in their profile. The way a factor on we've offered a kid and we come back and like we're in an evaluation period right now with our guys out right now this spring. If that comes back and you see him and you're with the head coach on one in person, it could be different than just a phone deal. So all those things come back and we could change a kid's grade based on these factors.
Appreciate that, Coach Moore. Next up. Coach Dean.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry about that. So just process, man. Just kind of not piggybacking on what these guys doing, but just kind of giving you guys kind of our process here at our institution. So you start off first, and you have your area guys, and then when you go into the area, you basically you're going to that position coach, telling him, hey, this is the guy that we want to look at. The number thing, man, is if you're getting those early calls from those coaches and they're inviting you to those camps, and I'm not necessarily saying the big mega camp, the personal camp, that university's camp, go to that camp because that's when we can see a kid moving his shirt, shorts, and T-shirts. So just go out there and compete, try to play as many positions in. I know me coaching defensive backs. My guys that I coached didn't play defensive back. A lot of those guys were quarterbacks. A lot of those guys were running backs. Just kind of finding some of the best athletes. You never know what you may be. So those are kind of my 2 cents on it, man. But have fun with it. It's fun.
Appreciate that, Coach Dean. Anyone else?
I think that's everybody, Coach.
Coach Borkin?
Yeah, I won't hit on anything y'all have already hit on, but I know that one thing, just mainly because we are in that period right now, but the spring period is kind of one of the more frustrating stages of the evaluation process for me because, everybody does it different. Every team does it different. There's teams that go out there and they offer everybody they have interest in. There's teams that, kind of like us where we don't offer as many. And I think there's a lot of coaches and players out there and prospects that kind of use offers as validation of how good they are. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with how good of a player you are. When I walk in a school, I'm at this time of year, I'm walking in there because there is a good player there that I'm there to find out about. And the fact that we leave there and don't offer the kid, sometimes you get some coaches and from players where they, almost get their feelings hurt that you don't think that player is good, and that's not the case. But one thing is that, and we kind of touched on it, but before the process is over, and especially talking to the process, we're going to talk to just about everybody that you're involved with in your day. Whether it's your head coach, your position coach, the guy that is over strength and conditioning there, the guy that is your coach in basketball, baseball, track, whatever. We're going to talk to those guys and find out what they have to say, just to make sure everything lines up with what that head coach said. And don't think that we aren't going to, as we walk in that school, ask the counselors about you. Ask a teacher if we run into a teacher in the hallway. Hey, this guy, if you had him in class, is he a good student? Is he attentive? Does he come to school? So everything that you do throughout your day is going to be part of that evaluation process. So make sure, especially prospects, that you're doing the right things throughout your day, because everybody's going to have a say so in what your evaluation is by the end of the day.
Great job there, Coach Borkin. Anyone else? Man, I really appreciate our guest panel tonight, man. Really good details, really good insight to the recruiting process. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to start out this space with. You guys dominated the details. I think we helped a lot of people's lives today, and that's what it's all about. So I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I think we roughly was at 260 listeners here and there all throughout the night. So, man, I know some people got some great information, some great nuggets from you guys. So thank you guys so much for taking out your time, man. An hour of your time in the world. Hour of your time to invest in the world, man, means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to these listeners that were on today. I really, truly do appreciate you guys' time, man. Y'all can look forward to us doing more things like this probably next Wednesday as well. So I appreciate everyone, man. Y'all enjoy y'all night. Have a great day. Go Bears.
Go Bears.